how about one other scenario for you? So super dynamic world that we're living in the mobility space. And imagine, you're leading a company, a tech company, say autonomous trucking is a big area right now, trying to pave a path amid a ton of uncertainty, right? So they have a projection when they're going to take off there, but there's many factors, regulations, technology adoption, supply chain issues, et cetera, that things could deviate pretty significantly from this path that has been defined. How do you suggest a leader in an area with a high degree of uncertainty go about paving their way?
What you're describing is the battlefield, man. You have no idea what the enemy's thinking, right? You can kind of guess, you can based on previous experience, but we say the enemy gets a vote. So there's a massive amount of uncertainty. You actually have to be okay with that. So I think that's where you've got to be able to detach and prioritize and execute in real time. And one thing that Jocko wrote about in Leadership Strategy and Tactics, I think is applicable here, is iterative decision making. So when you're taking small steps in the direction that you think seems like the right direction to go, and then you're evaluating that and readjusting as necessary. So hey, I'm going to keep moving forward in a direction that I think, let's say I've got bad guys that are shooting at us. Well, instead of me making some giant flanking maneuver and assigning 30 troops to march a mile in this direction and come up around the far ridge line behind the enemy, well, how about the first thing I need to do is just kind of assess the situation. Hey, Brandon, take 2 guys and get to the rooftop and tell me what you see. And if you get to the rooftop, tell me what you see. Hey, I see 6 guys on the rooftop of a building 5 blocks to the north of us. Okay, cool. Well, what can we do? We can take another iterative step in the direction. Hey, let's move 3 buildings to the north. Now get to the rooftop, tell me what you see. Now maybe you get up there, it's the same thing, but now we can make a maneuver, we can start to flank. But maybe you get up to the rooftop and you see that now there's 30 enemy fighters there. Well, now maybe we want to actually move in the opposite direction and call in an airstrike rather than try to go and assault their position. If all of a sudden there's 30 fighters instead of 6, so that's a totally different scenario. So when you take small iterative steps in the direction that seems best with the information that you have, which is always going to be incomplete, it's always going to be an incomplete picture, but it enables you to be decisive because you can just make the smallest decision that you need to in what seems like the right direction. And then the key is that you don't get stuck in that direction. You have to be humble enough and detached enough so that you're constantly evaluating, hey, does this make sense? Okay, do we need to adjust? And I think when you do that on the battlefield, it works exceptionally well. And you see leaders that are really decisive, under fire, but that's all they're really doing is making some small iterative steps in the direction that seems best. And it's the same thing in the business world. When you're talking about a constantly changing environment where there's all kinds of uncertainty, use the iterative decision-making process and then prioritize and execute, stay detached and constantly reevaluate those decisions and make adjustments accordingly.